Waikato farmers Graham and Diana Smith use EID technology as a key management tool in their bull beef operation on the farm that's been in the family for 38 years. Their daughter Donna, who in 2006 was a World Equestrian Games New Zealand team member, also runs a horse eventing and training business from the property.
We're in North Waikato, Tikawara. Traditionally, North Waikato is dry, summer dry, but we can get and usually get pasture growth of some sort right through the whole season. We're 205 hectares. There's a equestrian business here based as well, and we came here in 1975, had an all-sheep regime, got cleaned out seriously with eczema at the end of the 80s, worked our way through from really anything we could do, grazed calves, grazed dairy cows, rear calves. We ended up in the system we're in now because we used to start rearing calves and selling 100 kilo calves, and then 400 kilo store cattle. We had some cattle that were too heavy, and so I was able to see what there was only 5 or 6, see what these things can do. When we realised the potential of what bulls can do in their second spring, we thought, hey, this is where we need to go. As far as the technology we're using, we are reliant on that. One, it makes you more efficient, but I think probably as important as that is it actually makes it more interesting. We started off just using what sheep scales we had when we shifted to sheep to the load bars, from sheep to cattle. As the cattle got bigger, we went to this, which is probably one of the greatest things we bought, a crush, because everything that's in there is weighed. I think to start with, all we wanted really was date, animal number, and what its weight was. Then we wanted to know what its weight gain was, and then we wanted to know more after that. And so quite recently we got hold of one of these, and it can give us a lot more information and back further in the animal's history too. Prior to EID, we just had ordinary management tags, just visual tags we'd read. We had a little set of scales that we'd write down the animal's number visually, and then write down its weight, what we saw. Half the time, like right now with these guys here, they've been out in a wet break, you wouldn't be able to read half the tags we used to use. So after a while we got sick of rubbing the tags. Colin from Gallagher said, hey, have you ever heard of EID? No, we hadn't, because it was about 10 years ago and nobody really had. Like a lot of others, they were investigating it. And so when we saw, as soon as I saw what it was, that we could run animals through and scan it, and the animal number came up, and then even on the other scales we had, the weight came up, and that was what we wanted. Also on the other scales it showed you a weight gain graph, but that didn't hold. In other words, once it had gone on to the next animal, that was the end of that. Whereas this information can go right through and you can drill down into each animal. We've always used half duplex tags. They read really well, as you can see, apart from when an animal went in and had its head down. That's always an issue, but they lift them up in the end. But basically, as soon as they're 2/3 of the way or a third of the way into the scales, with the half duplex tags, the readers picked it up straight away, bang. With the full duplex tags, I realise they have other applications, but I've got cattle here now that we've bought in with full duplex tags, and they're a lot slower. Just slows the whole process down. You've actually got to wait for the tag to communicate with the reader, and that's time. The tags themselves, the first question a lot of people ask is, how many do you lose? Maybe 1 or 2 a year if it's a bad time. We do use a management tag that we link with it, so if we do happen to lose one, we'll actually be able to relate back to the management tag, back to the EID tag, and then replace the tag number. I don't think you can put a value on it. It's a bit like that when we had sheep and we had a wool shed. I mean, what value do you put on a wool shed? That's for harvesting wool, this is for harvesting beef. It tells us all the time. As the animal, like these guys have been weighed at the beginning of May, every drench I'll weigh them. That also comes into play. If it's a pour on, you can actually relate the volume of drench you give to that animal through the scales and dial up the right dose rate for it. As far as the whole process goes, we know all the time where our animals are at. What we got here is this is the last animal that walked off the scales. That's its tag number picked up by the panel reader. This is its current weight. Over here, when the animals came on, we entered the fact that it was a rising 1 bull. It was male, obviously, and it was Frisian. Now, in behind it also, we enter the rearer, or wherever we got it from, so we can go back later on at the end of the bull's life and work through and work out where the best calves came from. In here is something I've had to play with, not very familiar with it, but it's a very good tool, is at its current weight gain of 0.93, that's its current daily gain since last weighing, which is the beginning of May. At a current daily weight gain in 200 days, it'd be 437 kilos. That's a tool that we're going to be using a lot more, especially for older bulls later on. What I'll do with that mob now, there's 39 or 40 or something in there. It's too big a mob to hold back together for much longer. I'll split them, and I'll split them based on weight and weight gain. So before I used to just split it on weight, but there's some animals in there that are obviously more efficient at converting grass into weight. So I'll use the information on here now to actually decide which. So instead of just being the heaviest animal, it'll now be the animal with the most potential. As far as the information that comes from EID, we collect it. I think we should own it. That's easy to say, probably hard to do. I think there's a huge room for extension in that, rather than just have it as a traceability system. It's got huge on-farm benefits, which we're already using, but also if we could plug into the parentage, the breeding of the animals that we're getting, we can then pay the breeder, the dairy farmer, more for particular calves. There's other calves that wouldn't have a market, that's fine. I think probably there's different breeds that come through. People like different breeds, just like people like different breeds of any sheep, cattle. And I think if we can plug into that sort of information, but at the moment we can't. The equestrian started purely by chance of somebody coming down the drive about 25, 30 years ago and saying, will we hold a one-day event? We had members of the family who were keen on horses, and it developed from there. We have a lot of town people come down for pony club camps during January, and it's really good to be able to offer them a chance to experience a farm environment. And that's probably one of the big pluses of the whole thing.
Okay, so the ride that you had actually before was a little bit better because you actually didn't do anything to say come back. It was all more soft and forward.
We have a few parts of our business. The first one is we ride for owners, and the other side of it is we do a lot of teaching, and also we have horses coming for schooling where we school them for the riders, and then the owners come and compete them when they want, or they come in on like a week or a month's basis to be schooled.
That ride there is actually what you need.
We also do breaking in, and we cover all aspects of the 3-day eventing, which is what we do.
So what do you think?
Yeah, it feels better.
It's going to take a little
Sim
bit.
is actually Australian, and she represented Australia in eventing, and then I represent New Zealand. So we both still have very high goals and everything, but at the same time we want to help younger riders come up through the grades as well, and kind of show them, give them a bit of leadway, like how people helped us, give back in that. And also we buy and sell horses, but our biggest thing is we love competing.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.